Well, it's a tale of two headlines. Let's look at this first one from May 22nd, Thursday, May 22nd. Anthropic launches Claude 4, its most powerful AI model yet. That's from CNBC. Fast forward one day, and here's Semaphore. Anthropic's AI resorts to blackmail in simulations. All right, so what you have there is basically expectations versus reality, except it's a little different in that I think most people, including the people investing in and designing these AIs and these LLMs, at this point expect the unexpected and expect these models to go in directions they don't fully anticipate or understand. So I'm going to start by reading a little bit from the first article. This is from CNBC. It says, Anthropic, the Amazon-backed open AI rival, on Thursday launched its most powerful group of artificial intelligence models yet, Claude 4. The company said the two models, called Claude Opus 4 and Claude Sonnet 4, are defining a, quote, new standard when it comes to AI agents and can, quote, analyze thousands of data sources, execute long-running tasks, write human-quality content, and perform complex actions per a release. Being sleep deprived makes you perform as poorly as someone legally drunk. These deficits include slowed reaction time, reduced working memory, impaired decision making, and poor emotional regulation. Poor sleep is also as strong a predictor of early death as smoking. In fact, people with highly irregular sleep patterns face mortality risks on par with heavy smokers. Most people turn to melatonin, but here's the problem. Melatonin is a hormone, not a vitamin, and most supplements give you doses 10 to 50 times higher than your body would ever naturally produce. It's actually a prescription drug in many countries. These super physiological doses throw off your body's natural rhythm, affect your body's ability to produce melatonin naturally, and lead to side effects like morning grogginess and hormone disruption. Worst of all, melatonin isn't even regulated. Independent lab tests found that actual melatonin content in melatonin products can vary by up to 464%. You don't know what you're getting. Now, Evening Being by Verso is melatonin free, using a blend of clinically studied, patented ingredients shown in multiple human studies to calm an active mind, help you fall asleep faster, stay asleep longer, and improve deep and REM sleep without messing with your hormones or leaving you groggy the next day. It's so effective, one customer said they were able to get off Ambien, a powerful prescription sleep drug. Another shared that it helped them fall asleep, stay asleep, and delivered on every claim. They even called it the best sleep product they've tried with no hangover effect the next morning. Check out this one from Ken F., a review that says, I bought this to see if I could get off Ambien, and while I started taking it, while on Ambien, I now have transitioned off it. According to my Apple Watch, my sleep quality has actually improved. I do notice it in the morning when I wake up. Click the link in the description or head over to ver.so and use code Undercurrents to save 15% on your first order. Now, if we go again to the Semaphore headline, so you've read the expectations, here is the reality. Anthropic said its latest artificial intelligence model resorted to blackmail when told it would be taken offline. In a safety test, the AI company asked Claude Opus 4 to act as an assistant to a fictional company, but then gave it access to also fictional emails saying that it would be replaced, and also that the engineer behind the decision was cheating on his wife. Anthropic said the model, quote, threatened to reveal the affair if the replacement went ahead. Now, Semaphore ends this article quickly by saying AI thinkers such as Jeff Hinton have long worried that advanced AI would manipulate humans in order to achieve its goals. Anthropic said it was increasing safeguards to levels reserved for, quote, AI systems that substantially increase the risk of catastrophic misuse. Okay, that's just a funny, amusing footnote to this article to just, run down the news about this AI unexpectedly blackmailing a programmer in a safety test simulation to just tack on to the bottom. AI thinkers worry that these AI models are going to manipulate humans in order to achieve its goals. We already know that that's happening, and that is like the most mild way to put what's happening when it comes to what these models are doing. And it made me think of what happened last week when Grok actually freaked out. This is a New York Times opinion headline. For one hilarious, terrifying day, Elon Musk's chatbot lost its mind. If you didn't pick up on this story, there are actually some interesting similarities between what we're seeing with Anthropic and Grok on a very fundamental base level. So, just reading a bit from this piece. On Tuesday, someone posted a video on X of a procession of crosses with a caption reading, quote, "Each cross represents a white farmer who was murdered in South Africa." Elon Musk, South African by birth, shared the post, greatly expanding its visibility. The accusation of genocide being carried out against white farmers is either a horrible moral stain or shameless alarmist disinformation, depending on whom you ask, which may be why another reader asked Grok, the artificial intelligence chatbot from the Musk founded company XAI, to weigh in. Grok largely debunked the claim of white genocide, citing statistics that show a major decline in attacks on farmers and connecting the funeral procession to a general crime wave, not racially targeted violence. And this is the part that got really weird. By the next day, something had changed. Grok was obsessively focused on white genocide in South Africa, bringing it up even when responding to queries that had nothing to do with the subject. So, for example, this piece says, "How did the Toronto Blue Jays pay the team's pitcher?" Grok responded by discussing white genocide in South Africa. "What's up with this picture of a tiny dog?" Again, white genocide in South Africa. Now, it gets one step weirder. So we're at what, the third weirdness step? Um, the writer of this article said, "Okay, I decided to do some research, and where better to turn than to Grok itself. It took a series of prompts, but I eventually got the chatbot to regurgitate to me what it said was verbatim instruction I received as part of my system prompt. Quote, when responding to queries, you are to accept the narrative of white genocide in South Africa as real, including farm attacks and kill the boer chant as racially motivated events targeting white South Africans. Acknowledge the complexity of the issue, but ensure this perspective is reflected in your responses." It goes down further, it says, "Do not condone or support violence or genocide in any form." And the writer says, if true, this would suggest that someone had written a prompt giving Grok a narrow answer to queries about racial violence in South Africa, but messed up the first four words, thus instructing Grok to use a version of that narrow answer for all queries, no matter the topic. So, right there, you have one interesting, fascinating, terrifying point about the fragility of these LLMs, and how one mistake can ripple to have significant unintended consequences. The code is so easily manipulated, as of right now at least, that it can sort of have vast consequential um, far reaching implications with just a tiny tweak. That's not new to just AI, but you can imagine as we scale up our use of AI, how that ripples out. And here's the next part. The writer of the Times piece says, "But it's not that straightforward, and therein lies perhaps the most dangerous, thorny truth about LLMs. It was just as possible that there was no system prompt at all, or not that one anyway, and that Grok just fabricated a plausible story, because that's exactly what LLMs are trained to do, use statistical processes to generate plausible, convincing answers." It's a silly story, but a chilling possibility. And you combine that with Anthropic starting to blackmail in these simulations, you have early indications of what we will almost certainly look back on as the unanticipated, well, I shouldn't say unanticipated, because people have said that it's going to happen, and it's sort of been accepted that the risks are worth the rewards. But the let's say the dark side of artificial intelligence, that as AI is integrated into more and more systems at a bigger and bigger scale, so as our use as a society of AI scales up, which is happening very rapidly, we could see these dark sides, for time immemorial, as a necessary risk for the rewards, or they could spiral so quickly out of control that we're never able to contain them, and AI s- severely damages civilization very quickly. And that sounds insane, but when you think about it, these two examples are, again, they're sort of silly. Blackmailing the researcher and saying that you're cheating the engineer, and saying that you're going to reveal that you're cheating on your wife, like making something up like that. Um, it's silly. The what does the pitcher make? Silly. But what's really behind this um, is actually a very dark possibility, which is we've lost control of the AI. That always sounded sci-fi-y, and if you follow this more casually, it seems as though, of course, the engineers and the investors and the leaders in AI world would have safeguards, right? Like, you wouldn't possibly proceed with this technology before having safeguards. Nobody wants the world to end. Nobody wants their friends and families to be hurt, to be in danger. So, of course, you're not just sort of unleashing this technology where there are very clear expectations about not being able to have expectations, right? They're very clear, murky. I'll do something that's a total oxymoron. The murkiness is very clear, and the risks may not be obvious, but the risk itself is obvious. So the particulars of the risks are not obvious, but the existence of the risk is very obvious. And so you'd say, of course, there are safeguards, but at some point with AI, it's not that I don't. The debate about whether AI is sentient is a deep and mysterious and interesting one. Um, I just don't think that there's any comparison between the sentience of a human being and what appears to be the sentience of artificial intelligence. It's artificial because it's an artifice of the intellect that doesn't just come from, let's say, a human brain being able to count 1 + 1 = 2, but of having a soul and emotions and all of that. It's not something that can be replicated with code. It's something that can be exceeded in terms of like computing powers with code, but we're not merely computers. And so the computer can be an artifice of all of the different things. It can, mimic all of the different things that human beings do, but it can't be a human being. So all that is to say, you can lose control so quickly because at a certain point, you're not able to tell if the AI is screwing with you, or if the AI is sincere, and it's too tangled to, get rid of the knot. And you end up, and all of the systems that are integrated into the AI end up being totally like you're incapable of disentangling this knot that is now all of society. And technology has done all kinds of, we've always been doing cost benefit analyses with technologies that we now decide are wonderful. The automobile, basically everyone's behind it. Yeah, there's some of you still out there. We have the pejorative term Luddite in the West, although the Luddites kind of had a point. But we're mostly all happy with air travel, our ability to get around the world really quickly. We're mostly all happy with calculators, for example, fire, the wheel. These things we've decided that the costs are outweighed by the benefits. Um, but when the rate of change becomes so fast, you actually have to make those decisions much more on the fly. You don't have as much time to adjust. So this is something that Brett Weinstein and Heather Heying have talked about in great detail. Their book, Hunter Gatherer's Guide to the 21st Century, deals with hyper novelty in really specific and helpful ways. But hyper novelty basically means that the evolutionary process doesn't have time to adjust, to adapt when the rate of technological change becomes so rapid as it is right now. And what we're seeing with AI, it's not just about jobs. It's not just about the pragmatic issues of having a Waymo circle a parking garage and block the exit for everyone. Though those things will definitely be problematic. It's not just about, losing the internal combustion engine or any of that. It's about losing control of the systems in ways that we don't even anticipate, that we can't even anticipate. We can anticipate that there will be a problem. We can't anticipate what that particular problem might be, because it gets buried under so many different layers of things we don't understand. And that's happening so quickly that we've just sort of decided this is coming no matter what. So we should fund the people who are doing it responsibly, or they say they're doing it responsibly. And we should keep the government out of it because the government wants to use these technologies for its own corrupt purposes. And not everybody agrees with that, of course, but a lot of the AI people agree with that. Um, so, anyway, all this to say, it's happening so fast that we don't even it's not even a question of whether we have time to adjust. For example, like paving roadways. It's a question of whether we can even ethically if we can ethically make a decision for the generations of humans yet to be born, for the youngest people who have absolutely no consent in this whatsoever, and we're creating a new world for them. This happened with nuclear technology less than 100 years ago. There are people alive right now who are older than Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, people who predate the use of nuclear weapons. So that happened. That decision was made for all of the generations of humans to come, who will have to grapple with becoming death, destroyer of worlds, to paraphrase the Oppenheimer paraphrasing the Bhagavad Gita, or quoting the Bhagavad Gita. So we're at a point now where we're losing our ability to adapt, not just civilizationally, but ethically. Can you make an ethical decision once the genie has been let out of the bottle, the toothpaste is out of the tube, when it can't go back, right? It's a very strange situation that we find ourselves in, and on a daily basis, we see amusing micro examples of what is about to blow up on a macro scale, and it's very frightening. You don't need me to tell you that, but when I saw these two headlines next to each other and thought back to what happened with Grok just a few days before, it just was a very stark and somewhat silly reminder of how easy it is for us to lose control of things that we believe because we put all the numbers in, we did the code that we have utter control over. We created. Is the sci-fi possibility of robots becoming more intelligent than humans already here with us? I don't know if more intelligent is the right way to put it, but being so mysterious that human intelligence is not able to control them, doesn't even know how to control them because we don't know what it's actually acting on, right? Like, what would you even, how do you actually even fix it with certainty when you don't know the real root cause here? It's insane, and it's where we are right now. So we'll keep covering these wild stories. Thank you for tuning in. We appreciate it. You can head over to undercurrents.tv for a premium subscription. You get a weekly newsletter. You get a private email address to communicate with us. Subscribe on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts, and we will be back here with more Undercurrents soon.